Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine holding a glass of water in your hand. Nothing special, right? Just clear liquid, tasteless, something you drink every day without a second thought. But pause, look closer. Within that glass lies a whole story. Clouds drifting across the sky, rain falling on the mountains, rivers carving their way through valleys, sunlight pulling vapor upward, gravity pulling it back down. The simple water in your hand is the journey of the universe itself. How many times have we let such miracles slip by unnoticed? Most of us live as though life were ordinary, as if the world were just a backdrop against which our dramas unfold. We rush through mornings, stare at screens, chase deadlines, argue over little things, and collapse into bed exhausted. And yet, right beneath our noses, the extraordinary is always unfolding. A bird building its nest, a child laughing, the breath rising and falling in our own chest. The tragedy is not that miracles are rare. The tragedy is that we fail to see them. The Buddha once said that to be alive at all is a miracle. To walk on this earth, to breathe in and breathe out, to open our eyes and see the colors of dawn, this is already astonishing. And yet, because we are so consumed by desire, distraction, and restlessness, we take the sacred for granted. We look for grand displays of magic, forgetting that the greatest magic is already here. Think about it. What is more miraculous than the fact that you were born into this world? That out of countless possibilities, you appeared breathing with a heart that beats on its own, carrying within you the potential to love, to create, to awaken. No magician, no sorcerer, no miracle worker can produce anything more wondrous than that. But our eyes are clouded. We wait for fireworks, for supernatural phenomena, for extraordinary signs. We forget that the real miracle is simply this: to be present, to see clearly, to understand deeply. Those who understand the Dharma truly understand it, live in this awareness. They walk among us, yet their perception is different. Where others see just a flower, they see the dance of the entire cosmos. Where others see just a passing moment, they see eternity flowing through time. Where others complain about the rain, they see the gift of nourishment falling from the sky. And here lies the secret. The Dharma does not add something magical to life. It strips away the blindness that prevents us from seeing what has always been here. When delusion falls away, every moment shines with wonder. Picture standing under a tree. You may notice the shade, maybe the leaves. But one who sees through the eyes of Dharma notices more. The roots reaching deep into the earth, the water traveling upward, the sun feeding each leaf, the air exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide in a quiet rhythm of giving and receiving. That tree is not just a tree. It is earth, water, fire, air, time, and space woven together into a miracle of existence. Life, in its essence, is not mundane. It is luminous. It is miraculous. The problem is not with life. The problem is with our eyes. And so the journey begins here with a question as old as humanity. What does it take to truly see? Is it possible that miracles are not hidden at all but simply overlooked? Could it be that the Dharma, the truth, the teaching, the way things are, opens our vision so that what once seemed ordinary now reveals itself as sacred? If so, then perhaps awakening is not about escaping this world, but about learning to see this very world as it is, radiant, mysterious, and endlessly alive. Take a breath. Feel it. That breath, too, is a miracle. The very fact that you can hear these words, that your consciousness can grasp their meaning, that you exist in this precise moment, this is the hidden wonder of life. And once you begin to notice, truly notice, the miracle never ends. If life itself is already miraculous, then what is it that allows some people to see it while others walk past it blind? The answer lies in one word: Dharma. But Dharma is not just a word, not just a concept you memorize or a teaching you repeat. It is the pulse of reality itself. To speak of Dharma is to speak of the way things truly are, the law that underlies the universe, the truth that holds everything together, the path the Buddha discovered beneath the noise of human confusion. Many hear the word Dharma and immediately think of books, sutras, rituals, or doctrines. But the Dharma is older than any text, larger than any temple, deeper than any philosophy. It is not limited to religion. It is not even confined to Buddhism. Before the Buddha pointed to it, the Dharma was already here. When the Buddha attained awakening, he did not create the truth. He simply saw it clearly and showed others how to see it too. Understanding the Dharma is like learning to read the language of existence. Suddenly, the patterns that once seemed random begin to make sense. You start to see the rhythm of impermanence, that nothing stays the same, that change is the very heartbeat of reality. You recognize the law of interdependence, that nothing exists on its own, that every being, every object, every breath is woven together in an endless web of connection. To understand Dharma is to realize that your joy is not separate from the joy of others, that your suffering is not isolated but part of the wider human struggle. It is to awaken from the illusion of separation and to stand in awe at the vastness of life, touching it with compassion instead of clinging to it with fear. Imagine walking through a forest. To the ordinary eye, it is just trees and leaves, dirt and stones, but to one who sees through the Dharma, every detail comes alive. The leaf is not just green, it is the work of sunlight, soil, rain, and countless years of evolution. The breeze that brushes your skin is not just wind, it is the whisper of the entire atmosphere moving in balance. Even your own body walking there in silence is not yours alone. It is made of the food you have eaten, the breath of plants, the love of parents, the care of countless beings who helped you survive. Dharma reveals that life is not a collection of isolated fragments. It is one great body, endlessly unfolding, endlessly creating itself. But understanding the Dharma is not merely intellectual. It is not about memorizing teachings or reciting words. You can read thousands of pages, chant 100 sutras, debate endlessly in temples, and still miss the point. Understanding the Dharma happens in the marrow of your bones, in the depth of your being, in the way you look at a single drop of dew and see the reflection of the whole universe inside it. It is like tasting honey. No matter how many books you read about sweetness, no matter how many people describe it to you, nothing compares to placing it on your tongue. In the same way, the Dharma must be lived, breathed, tasted in your own heart. Only then does it reveal its miraculous nature. The Buddha called it the Dharma eye, a vision that sees beyond appearances, a wisdom that penetrates the surface and touches the essence. With this eye, what once appeared ordinary now glows with meaning. The simplest act, drinking tea, sweeping the floor, smiling at a stranger, becomes sacred. So when we say, one who understands the Dharma sees everything as miraculous, we are not speaking of fantasy. We are speaking of perception that has been cleansed of ignorance. We are speaking of vision that no longer clings, no longer distorts, no longer sleeps through the wonders of life. To understand the Dharma is to awaken to a truth that has always been here, waiting to be seen. And once the Dharma eye opens, the world can never look the same again. If the Dharma is always here, if life itself is already miraculous, why is it that most of us fail to notice? Why do we walk through a universe of wonder with eyes that see only boredom? The answer lies not in the world outside us, but in the fog within. The Buddha taught that the human mind is often veiled by three poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. These poisons distort our vision like dust clouding a mirror. With greed, we are forever chasing what we do not have. With hatred, we push away what we do not like. And with delusion, we fail to see reality as it truly is. Together, they form a prison of perception, keeping us blind to the miracles around us. Think of a child. To a child, everything is alive and magical. A puddle is an ocean. A butterfly is a marvel. A falling leaf is a little drama unfolding in midair. But as we grow older, the freshness of perception fades. Routine takes over. We label things, categorize them, dismiss them as ordinary. What once felt like a miracle now feels like background noise. This is the tragedy of habit. It blinds us to wonder. The more familiar something becomes, the less we see it. The breath, for example, so essential, so miraculous, passes in and out of our lungs thousands of times a day, and yet we rarely notice. Only when it falters, when we are sick or gasping, do we realize its preciousness. The same blindness colors our relationships. We overlook the presence of those we love, assuming they will always be there. Only when they are gone do we recognize the miracle of their existence. We fail to see until it is too late. And then there is distraction. In the modern world, our attention is constantly under siege. We scroll through endless feeds, drown ourselves in noise, run from one task to another. Our minds are scattered, restless, never at home in the present moment. How can we see the miraculous when we are never truly here? It is not that miracles are hidden. It is that our gaze is elsewhere. The Buddha once compared the untrained mind to a monkey, leaping from branch to branch, restless and easily deceived. In such a state, even when surrounded by beauty, we remain blind. We look, but we do not see. We hear, but we do not listen. We live, but we do not awaken. There is another reason we fail to see: our expectations. We are conditioned to believe that a miracle must be spectacular, a breaking of natural law, a display of supernatural power, something that defies reason. And so we dismiss the miracle that is right in front of us: the beating of a heart, the rising of the sun, the smile of a stranger. In seeking the extraordinary, we overlook the ordinary, which is itself extraordinary. To understand why we fail to see the miraculous is to understand the depth of our ignorance. It is not that life is lacking in wonder. It is that our awareness is dulled by habit, clouded by craving, and trapped in distraction. But there is hope. Just as a mirror covered in dust can be polished, the mind clouded by delusion can be cleared. With mindfulness, with practice, with the gentle discipline of Dharma, the fog begins to lift. Slowly, the ordinary reveals itself as extraordinary once again. Perhaps this is why so many Zen masters laughed upon awakening. It was not because they discovered something new, but because they realized it had always been there. The miracle was never hidden. It was simply unseen. And so the question becomes, what happens when the fog clears? What does the world look like when the Dharma eye opens? Imagine standing in front of a window on a rainy day. At first, all you see are raindrops sliding down the glass. Nothing unusual, nothing worth noticing. But then, for a brief moment, your mind quiets and you begin to notice something else. The raindrops shimmering like tiny jewels, each one reflecting the entire world upside down. What was once dismissed as ordinary suddenly reveals its hidden beauty. This is what happens when the eyes of Dharma open. The Dharma eye is not a supernatural vision. It does not allow you to see spirits, read minds, or move mountains. It is something far more profound, the ability to see reality as it is. To awaken the eyes of Dharma is to wipe away the dust of ignorance and finally perceive the miracle woven into every moment. With these eyes, the world does not change, you change. The flower remains a flower, the river remains a river, the breath remains a breath. But your perception deepens. You no longer see a flower as a mere decoration, but as the embodiment of sun, soil, water, and countless generations of life. You no longer see a river as just flowing water, but as the lifeblood of the earth carrying nourishment to countless beings. You no longer see your breath as trivial, but as the bridge connecting you to every tree, every leaf, every living thing. When the eyes of Dharma open, separation dissolves. You realize you are not a solitary self, cut off from the rest of existence. You are a thread in the vast tapestry of life. Your happiness is interwoven with the happiness of others. Your suffering is not yours alone, but part of the human fabric. This realization does not make life colder. It makes life warmer, more compassionate, more alive. Awakening does not turn you into someone else. It reveals the truth of who you already are. It allows you to step out of the fog of illusion and into the clarity of presence. And in that clarity, everything shines. Zen masters often point to this shift with simple, everyday metaphors. One master said, "Before awakening, mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers. During the search, mountains are no longer mountains and rivers are no longer rivers. After awakening, mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers again." What does this mean? That reality never changed. What changed was the depth of perception. First, we take things for granted. Then, when we begin to question, we see them as strange and confusing. Finally, when clarity arrives, we see them again as they are, but this time with eyes that recognize their true nature. It is like rediscovering the world after being asleep. The same sky, the same trees, the same people, but now they feel radiant, precious, sacred. And perhaps the most astonishing part is this. Once the Dharma eye opens, even suffering becomes part of the miracle. Pain, loss, disappointment, these two are seen with new eyes. They are no longer meaningless burdens, but teachers pointing toward compassion, impermanence, and the fragile beauty of existence. To awaken is not to escape suffering, but to see through it, to recognize its place in the vast unfolding of life. The Buddha himself described this awakening as the arising of the Dharma eye. On the night of his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, he did not gain superpowers or secret formulas. He simply saw reality as it truly is, impermanent, interconnected, and empty of any permanent self. And in that vision, the universe revealed itself as miraculous beyond measure. This is why the awakened ones laugh, not because they found something exotic, but because they finally saw what was always here. The miracle is not hidden. It is only our blindness that hides it. So what does it take to awaken the eyes of Dharma? Not wealth, not status, not even extraordinary talent. What it takes is presence, a willingness to slow down, a willingness to truly look, a willingness to polish the mirror of the mind until it reflects life as it is. When that happens, you no longer pass through the world half asleep. You no longer chase endlessly after what you lack or resist endlessly what you dislike. Instead, you live awake, tasting the miracle in each moment. And once this awakening begins, something shifts forever. You cannot go back to blindness. You cannot unknow what you have seen. The Dharma eye has opened, and with it, the whole universe glows. When people hear the word miracle, they often imagine something dramatic, walking on water, splitting the moon, or summoning light from the sky. But in Buddhism, the most profound miracles are not found in breaking the laws of nature. They are found in living fully within them. A Zen master once said, "The real miracle is not to walk on water. The real miracle is to walk on the earth." Think about that for a moment. Each step you take is supported by the ground that has carried life for billions of years. Each step connects you to the soil, the stones, the countless organisms beneath your feet. When you walk mindfully, feeling the earth beneath you, you are participating in a miracle greater than any spectacle. The Buddha himself pointed to such ordinary wonders. He taught his disciples to contemplate the body, the breath, the food they ate, the water they drank. He urged them to notice the arising and passing of thoughts, the impermanence of sensations, the interdependence of all things. For him, these were not trivial details. They were doorways into awakening. Take the breath, for instance. How many times have you inhaled and exhaled today? Probably thousands. And yet, how many times did you notice? To breathe is to touch life itself, to exchange air with trees and oceans, to receive a gift that sustains you without asking for anything in return. What could be more miraculous than that? Or consider a single smile. When you smile at someone with genuine warmth, you are not simply moving muscles on your face. You are offering safety, kindness, a spark of human connection. That smile might soften a stranger's burden. It might heal a friend's pain. It might ripple outward in ways you will never see. Is that not a miracle? The teachings of interbeing, beautifully expressed by modern Buddhist masters, remind us that nothing exists in isolation. Look at a simple piece of paper. At first glance, it is only paper. But look deeper and you see the cloud that gave rain, the tree that grew tall, the sunlight that nourished its leaves, the logger who cut it, the truck that carried it, the store that sold it. Without the entire cosmos, that paper could not exist. To see this truth is to see the miraculous woven into even the most ordinary objects. In the same way, a bowl of rice is not just rice. It contains the farmer's sweat, the fertile soil, the monsoon rains, the warmth of the sun, and the unseen labor of countless beings. When we eat with awareness, gratitude arises naturally. We realize we are not simply consuming food, we are partaking in the entire universe. Buddhism teaches us that miracles are not meant to impress but to awaken. They are not about power, they are about presence. The Buddha himself was once asked to perform supernatural displays to prove his enlightenment. Instead, he pointed to the Dharma as the true miracle, a teaching that can transform ignorance into wisdom, greed into generosity, hatred into compassion. What greater miracle could there be than the transformation of the human heart? Everyday miracles are all around us. The sound of rain tapping against the window, the fragrance of a flower blooming in silence, the sight of a child taking their first steps. Even suffering, when seen through the Dharma, carries a miraculous depth. It reminds us of impermanence. It opens the door to compassion. It teaches us to let go. The danger is not that life lacks miracles. The danger is that we sleep through them. We let routine dull our senses. We let hurry steal our attention. We let desire cloud our gratitude. But the Dharma invites us to wake up, to open our eyes, to notice every step, every breath, every heartbeat. The path does not ask us to escape reality, but to step more deeply into it. For when we do, we discover that the ordinary is extraordinary, that the everyday is radiant, and that the whole universe is shimmering with miracles too vast to count. And when you begin to live with this awareness, life no longer feels like a burden to endure. It feels like a gift to be cherished. Stories have always carried the power to touch us in ways logic cannot. And in the Buddhist tradition, countless stories remind us that the miraculous is never far away. It is always waiting in the simplest of moments. One story tells of a monk walking with his teacher. As they journeyed through the forest, the disciple kept asking about enlightenment. What is it? How will I know? Is it a kind of light, a kind of vision, a supernatural state? The teacher paused, pointed to a single flower blooming by the path, and said, "Look." The disciple stared, puzzled. "I don't understand," he replied. The teacher simply smiled. For him, the miracle was already there in the flower. No words could improve upon it. Enlightenment was not about grasping something new, but about opening the eyes to what was already shining before him. Another story comes from the Zen tradition. A young monk had been meditating for years, waiting for some grand experience of awakening. One day, while chopping wood in the monastery yard, he heard the clink of his axe against a stone. In that instant, something shattered inside him. The illusion of separation dissolved, and he saw the world as radiant and whole. He dropped the axe and laughed. For him, the sound of metal on stone was the spark of awakening. No lightning bolts, no visions, just the miracle hidden in an ordinary sound. In the Jataka tales, which tell of the Buddha's many past lives, miracles are often woven into stories not as displays of power, but as lessons in compassion. In one tale, the Bodhisattva, before his final birth as Siddhartha, was born as a prince who gave away his life to feed a starving tigress and her cubs. The miracle was not in defying death, but in the depth of compassion that transcended the fear of death itself. That act of selfless love was more miraculous than any display of magic. There is also the famous story of Mahakasyapa, one of the Buddha's closest disciples. One day, the Buddha stood before a large assembly. Instead of giving a sermon, he silently held up a flower. The crowd was confused, unsure what to make of this gesture, but Mahakasyapa smiled. In that moment of silent recognition, a transmission occurred beyond words, a recognition of the Dharma itself. The miracle was not in the flower, but in the awakening of understanding. Again and again, these stories point us toward the same truth. The miraculous is not separate from the ordinary. The Buddha discouraged displays of supernatural powers, warning that they could easily become distractions. He called the true miracle the miracle of teaching the Dharma, the power to transform ignorance into wisdom, greed into generosity, hatred into love. Think of Angulimala, the feared bandit who once terrorized villages. When he encountered the Buddha, he intended to kill him. But the Buddha's presence, his calm, his compassion, broke through Angulimala's rage. Instead of bloodshed, there was transformation. The murderer put down his weapon, knelt, and became a monk. That moment was a miracle, not because natural law was broken, but because the human heart was awakened. These stories are not meant to entertain us with wonders. They are meant to remind us that the real miracle is always closer than we think. A flower, a sound, a smile, a shift of the heart. When we read these sutras with the Dharma eye, they stop being distant legends. They become mirrors, showing us our own potential for awakening. For just as a flower awakened Mahakasyapa, A single moment in our own lives could open the door to clarity. Just as a sound transformed a young monk, a single breath could reveal the miracle of existence to us. The Sutras whisper to us across time, do not wait for magic. Look deeply into what is already here, because the miraculous is not found in escaping the world. It is found in seeing the world as it truly is. If the Sutras speak of monks awakening at the sound of an axe striking stone, we might ask, why don't we awaken in the sound of our phones buzzing or the hum of traffic outside our windows? After all, sound is sound. Life is life. So why does it feel so different for us? The truth is, modern life has blinded us. Not because our eyes are closed, but because they are overwhelmed. We scroll endlessly, racing from one screen to another, from one task to the next, always chasing the next email, the next notification, the next accomplishment. In this storm of speed, we forget to pause. And when we forget to pause, we forget to see. Stress has become our new atmosphere. Like fish swimming in water, we live in tension without even noticing it. Deadlines press on us, expectations weigh on us, comparison eats at us. And in that rush, the miracle of a breath is ignored, the wonder of a sunset is scrolled past, the smile of a stranger becomes invisible. It's not that miracles are absent, it's that we are absent. Our minds are constantly leaning forward into the future or dragging regrets from the past. We rarely touch the present long enough to notice its beauty. As Thich Nhat Hanh once said, people sacrifice the present for the future, but life can only be found in the present moment. And so, we sacrifice the very miracle we are searching for. Technology, for all its gifts, has also deepened our disconnection. We can connect instantly with someone across the globe, yet struggle to truly connect with the person sitting next to us. We measure our worth by likes and followers, forgetting that worth cannot be captured in pixels. The more we try to capture life through screens, the further life itself slips away. Think about it. When was the last time you drank water and truly tasted it, as if it were the most precious gift of the earth? When was the last time you stepped outside and noticed the air touching your skin, the sound of birds, the rustling of leaves? For many of us, these questions feel foreign. Our senses are dulled not because the world has lost its wonder, but because we have drowned it out with noise. We often imagine miracles as extraordinary events, walking on water, seeing visions, bending the laws of nature. But in Buddhism, the miracle is far simpler, far more radical. It is being awake in this very moment. And yet, modern life trains us in the opposite direction, to numb ourselves, to run faster, to want more. This is why we fail to see the miraculous. Not because it isn't here, but because we're too busy chasing something else. Like a person searching frantically for their glasses while the glasses are already on their face, we search for happiness everywhere except in the present. The Buddha's teaching strikes at the core of this blindness. He reminds us, suffering is not caused by the world, but by our clinging, our ignorance, our inability to see things as they truly are. Modern stress is just the newest disguise of an old pattern, and unless we awaken, it will keep us blind to the miracles that surround us. But here's the hope: blindness is not permanent. Just as fog can lift, just as clouds can part, our vision can clear. We can learn to slow down, to breathe, to return, to look again at life, not through the lens of stress, but through the eyes of Dharma. Because when we do, the buzzing of a phone can be like the clink of an axe, the rush of traffic like the song of a bird, the act of washing dishes like touching the sacred. The miracle has not gone anywhere. It is only waiting for us to see it. When we hear the word miracle, our minds often leap toward religion, mysticism, or ancient tales. But in recent years, scientists and psychologists have been discovering something surprising. The human mind is wired for wonder. Awe is not just a poetic word. It's a measurable state with real effects on our brain, our body, and our spirit. Researchers have found that moments of awe, standing before a vast mountain range, listening to a moving piece of music, holding a newborn baby, actually change the brain. Activity in the parietal lobe, the region that helps define our sense of self, begins to quiet down. For a brief moment, our ego shrinks and we feel part of something larger. This is not unlike the Buddhist teaching of anatta, or non-self. The recognition that the I we cling to is not as solid as we think. Even more remarkable, studies show that experiencing awe makes people kinder, more generous, more willing to help strangers. In other words, wonder softens the grip of self-centeredness and opens the heart. Isn't that exactly what the Dharma has been teaching for 500 years? That wisdom and compassion arise when the illusion of separation falls away. Psychologists describe awe as a reset button for the mind. It interrupts our endless loops of worry, our obsessive thoughts about the past and future, and pulls us into the vastness of the present moment. Sound familiar? It should. This is mindfulness in action. This is Dharma in the language of science. Think about the last time you felt small in the presence of something vast. A starry sky, the ocean stretching to the horizon, a forest of ancient trees. In that instant, your problems seemed lighter, didn't they? The deadlines, the arguments, the anxieties, they shrank against the backdrop of the infinite. That shrinking of the ego is what makes space for wonder. And it's what opens the door to the miraculous. Buddhism teaches that everything is interdependent, that a flower is not just a flower, but the sun, the rain, the soil, the entire universe woven together. Modern ecology, physics, and even neuroscience echo this truth. Science calls it systems theory, interconnected networks, quantum entanglement. Buddhism simply calls it Dharma. But here's the tragedy. Modern life, with all its speed and distraction, deprives us of awe. When every pause is filled with a scroll, when every silence is broken by a ping, our minds lose the capacity to expand. We shrink into ourselves and the miraculous fades from view. Psychologists now warn that a lack of wonder contributes to anxiety, depression, and even physical illness. In other words, losing awe is not just a spiritual crisis, it's a psychological one. And yet the solution is simple, and it aligns perfectly with Buddhist practice. Slow down, breathe, look deeply. In scientific terms, we cultivate awe states. In Dharma terms, we cultivate mindfulness and wisdom. Different words, same truth. One fascinating study asked participants to take a short walk each day, but with a twist. They were told to look at the world with awe, to notice colors, shapes, light, the vastness of the sky, the intricacy of leaves. After just a few weeks, participants reported greater joy, less stress, and more feelings of connection. Imagine that. Science confirming what monks and sages have been practicing for centuries. This is the meeting point of Dharma and psychology. The Buddha taught the miracle of seeing reality as it is. Modern science calls it awe. Both reveal the same secret. That wonder heals the heart, expands the mind, and reconnects us to life. The Sutras tell us that enlightenment is not the addition of something new, but the removal of ignorance. Science tells us that awe quiets the ego and reveals the bigger picture. Both are saying, open your eyes. The miracle is already here. So the question is no longer whether miracles exist. The question is, are we willing to cultivate the eyes to see them? For centuries, people have searched for miracles in the skies, visions, lights, divine signs. But the Buddha gently pointed elsewhere. He said the greatest miracle is not walking on water or flying through the air. The greatest miracle is to walk on this earth with a heart transformed. Think about it. What is more miraculous? To split the ocean in two, or to split the chains of anger that have bound us for years? What is more extraordinary? To bend the laws of nature, or to bend the stubborn will of ego into compassion? True transformation does not defy reality, it reveals reality. There's a story of Angulimala, the bandit whose necklace of severed fingers struck fear into entire villages. When he crossed paths with the Buddha, he saw not a man trembling before him, but a calm presence radiating compassion. In that silent gaze, Angulimala's heart cracked open. He dropped his weapon, fell to his knees, and followed the Buddha as a monk. That shift, from hatred to love, from violence to peace, is nothing short of miraculous. And haven't we seen glimpses of this in our own lives? A hardened father who learns at last to hug his child. A person consumed by addiction who chooses sobriety and kindness. A stranger offering forgiveness where vengeance once seemed inevitable. These transformations may not make the news, but they are the true revolutions of the human spirit. Science can measure awe, yes, but no instrument can fully capture the turning of a heart. When bitterness dissolves into forgiveness, when fear gives way to courage, when self-centeredness expands into compassion, that is the Dharma alive, the miracle unfolding. The Buddha called this Siddhavimmutti the liberation of the heart. It doesn't arrive with thunder or lightning. It arrives in small, steady moments of practice, sitting with our breath, watching our thoughts, choosing kindness when anger feels easier. Slowly, layer by layer, the hardened shell softens, and inside something luminous begins to shine. Miracles are not rare events for saints alone. They are possibilities for each of us here and now. Every time you resist the pull of greed and instead give generously, you perform a miracle. Every time you hold back a harsh word and choose patience, you perform a miracle. Every time you touch life with awareness, even in washing a dish or walking across a street, you perform a miracle. The transformation of the heart is not loud. It does not seek applause, but its ripple spreads wider than any spectacle of power. One heart that awakens to compassion can soften another, and another, until families change, communities change, even societies change. Perhaps this is why the Buddha discouraged displays of supernatural powers. He knew the true miracle was subtler, more enduring. To fly is impressive, yes, but to forgive, to love, to live without fear, that changes the world. So when we speak of miracles in Buddhism, we are not speaking of something far away. We are speaking of this very moment, this very heart. And the invitation is simple: look inward. Begin there. For the greatest miracle has always been waiting within you. As we arrive at the end of this journey, perhaps you've begun to notice something. The miraculous was never hiding. It was here from the beginning, in the breath that moves through you, in the ground beneath your feet, in the people you pass each day. The Buddha's teaching is not a call to escape life, but to wake up to life. The Dharma does not promise us a world without pain, but it offers us eyes clear enough to see that even within suffering, compassion can bloom. Even within impermanence, beauty shines. Living the miraculous path is not about chasing dramatic experiences. It's about walking slowly enough to feel the earth, breathing deeply enough to taste the air, listening closely enough to hear the quiet wisdom life is always whispering. It's about touching the sacred in the ordinary again and again. Imagine if tomorrow you rose from bed not with dread or distraction, but with wonder. Imagine brushing your teeth as if the water was a blessing, eating breakfast as if it were a gift, speaking to a loved one as if it were the last time. Imagine seeing every encounter, every breath, every moment as precious. That is the path. That is the miracle. And the beauty is, you don't need to be a monk, a scholar, or a saint. The Dharma belongs to everyone willing to look deeply. The same truth that awakened the Buddha under the Bodhi tree is alive in you now. So let your life itself be a sutra. Let your compassion be your miracle. Let your presence be the gift you offer to a world starving for connection. Because every time you choose awareness over distraction, kindness over indifference, presence over absence, you are living the miraculous path. The flower is already in bloom. The sky is already vast. The miracle is here waiting for your eyes to open. Walk gently, breathe fully, live deeply, and you will see. One who understands the Dharma sees everything as miraculous. If these words touch something within you, let this not be the end but the beginning. We invite you to walk this path with us, slowly, gently, step by step. Subscribe to Zen Buddhism wisdom and allow these teachings to return to you like a bell of mindfulness, reminding you to pause, to breathe, to see the miraculous in your own life. Share this journey with those you love, because sometimes the smallest ripple of wisdom can become the greatest gift to another's heart. And as you leave this video, carry with you not just ideas but presence. The Dharma is alive in every breath, in every step, in every smile. Let us walk this miraculous path together.